Now I would like to invite Mr. Niels Van Paemel from Child Focus organization from Belgium. In the organization, Niels is responsible for the problems related to online security of children, and he's going to tell us about the action, the main message of which that you should know, not send or post anything that you wouldn't like to see hanging on the wall at your grandmother's place.
Which you don't understand, because you could have literally said just anything. So, my name is Niels Van Paemel, and I work as a project manager for Child Focus, which is the Belgian Safer Internet Center, where we combine the three different pillars of a Safer Internet Center, so a hotline, a helpline, and an awareness center. At Child Focus, we've seen in 2015 that 25% of our e-safety related cases were all about sexting that goes wrong. Just to make clear, this does not include cases of sextortion or grooming, even if they have a similar start. For people who read the newspapers, we all know that when sexting goes wrong, it goes terribly wrong. It can go terribly wrong. Cases of youngsters and adults, by the way, that are being haunted today by a personal sex they said in the past is not an exception anymore. So that is why today I'm going to talk to you about sexting that has gone wrong. And we've seen that almost all of our cases, it's almost about secondary sexting. And that is where we have to put our red flag up. That's why there's a red flag on there. Let's go to the definition to see what we mean with this, because primary sexting, actually, this is just, for example, I send a nude picture of myself to Boris, and he receives it. That is primary sexting. I am the one who is sending the photo, but I'm also the one who took the photo initially. When is it secondary sexting? When he spreads it further. So, sexting may be secondary, incidents in which the sender is not the same person who took and initially transmitted the image in question, but instead is a person who received it from someone else and then forwarded it to others without the permission of me or knowledge of the person who originally took it. This latter variety thus might be also classified as secondary downstream sexting. So now we all know what we are talking about. These are all examples of secondary sexting. I send a sext to somebody, that person posts it on social media or even WhatsApp, gets all around my school, and I'm in trouble. Not very likely, but I could send a sext to a wrong number. It would be stupid, but this can happen. Revenge porn, you sex with each other in the context of a relationship. The relationship ends badly and one of the two persons decides to share intimate photos. Your device can get hacked if you have nudes or anything like this on your cell phone or your computer, and you get hacked. It's all out there. And a last example, you send a sexy snap to somebody because you think it's safe, because the photo will get deleted in a few seconds, but the other person decides to take a screenshot of this. And then you also might be in trouble. Okay, so this is secondary sexting. Something that made us understand the sexting generation in Flanders a bit better is the Apenstaartjaren research. This is a yearly research where they interview around 3,000–4,000 Belgian pupils aged 12 to 18. And they ask them about their online behavior, so also about sexting. When at first I saw the first results, I felt relieved, because what did I see? Only 8% of them had sent a sext within the last 2 months. That's not too much. I was like, okay, that's not bad. 60% of them were smart enough to be unrecognizable on the sext, which means not showing your face, making sure the background is not giving away who you are. 21% would go completely naked on a sext, which makes sense since most of the sexts that are being sent are within the context of a relationship. But then the next number really struck me, since apparently 25% of the youngsters had received a sext in the last 2 months. And then I was like, what? How is this possible? How is it possible that 25% of the Flemish pupils had received a sext within the last 2 months, if only 8% of them had sent one? That didn't make sense to me, but when the study continued, things were starting to make more sense. First of all, Snapchat is the sexting place to be for youngsters right now, in Flanders at least. So 81% of them would use Snapchat for sexting. But if you know at the same time, around 1 or 2 of them would take at least 1 screenshot per week, then we know that it's pretty easy for a sext to go viral. The following is also really striking. There seems to be a big gender difference in how the youngsters look at sexting. On the question, I would show a sext to a friend without permission, 24% of the boys would say yes. And whilst only, and I'm doing only, 7% of the girls. On the question, I would post a received sext on social media, 5% of the boys said yes, and by this actively contributes to secondary sexting. Whilst, again, 1.5% of the girls only would do that. Why they do it, we don't know, but it's definitely not because sexting is cool. Only 2.5% would agree to sexting is cool. 6% would agree that sexting is normal. That's also not much. That's actually not much at all. But there seems to be one golden rule for the sexting generation in Flanders, and that is that it's entirely the sender's fault when a photo gets widely spread. Around 70% would say that. But is it? Is it really though? I believe we got some work to do. As long as the receiver of a sext thinks that he or she does not have a single responsibility when he or she spreads that sext further on, I think we got a big problem. I don't think we can stop secondary sexting from happening if this is the mentality we are dealing with the youngsters nowadays. And actually, it's the same with adults. And because prevention work is dealing with the same problem, we don't know anymore who to prevent from doing what. Because as long as we have this narrow focus only on the sender of a sext, we will not stop secondary sexting from happening. So I think that we should change the scope. We should change the scope from the victim blaming you as the sender of a sext, towards prevention work that goes from both sides, that tackles as well the receiver as the sender of a photo. And that we can find within trust. And I don't mean this in a hippie kind of way, let's all hug and trust each other. But to make you understand, I made it into an acronym. Trust is triggering the receiver of a sext, of course, through a uniform message that also makes the sender think. I'm going to let this sink in for a moment, because I know what you are all thinking. You are all thinking that this is a really cool acronym, I know, but how do we implement this into practice? Well, trusting and effective prevention should focus on trust. How? Through an open dialogue about media use, instead of just saying, this is illegal, you shouldn't do this. We should tackle victimization, but of course, still advise people who are thinking about sexting. But at the same time, we should sensitize the receiver. And that's a part we tend to forget sometimes. So that's why I say know your enemy. We should go away from problematizing sexting as such and go towards tackling secondary sexting. And therefore, we need to go from both sides. I'm going to give you an example of prevention work that is still out there. These are slides that you can still find online that are still being taught to parents or any professional who works with youngsters. And if we just have this narrow focus on the sender, you'll see that we're not really resolving the problem. For example, just to make sure this is not my slide, I found it online. psychological aspects of why children send sexually explicit pictures. When the girls were small, they did not hear from their dads, "You are the most beautiful, you are my princess, you are the best." When the boys were small, they did not hear from their parents, "You are my hero, I am proud of you, you are the best." So their advice to parents is admire, praise your kids, and tell them they are the best. Do we really think that we will stop secondary sexting from happening if we would praise our kids more? I don't really think so. And by the way, I also don't like the fact that you should call a girl princess and a boy a hero. That's also not good. The second example is from the United States. You'll see this. Communicate with your teen about the risks of sharing embarrassing pictures of themselves via cell phone or online. I don't really think that is good communication with your kids. Make your teen aware of the criminal consequences and be an active, not a passive parent. They're right, but probably not in that way. Because the fact that somebody is taking a screenshot of your snap, it's not about the sender. It's about the person who takes that screenshot of that snap. We will not resolve the fact that boys would show sex to a friend without permission by saying them that they are the best. We should do more. And the fact that they would post or receive sex on social media, also that we will not resolve it by telling our boys that they are the best. So that's a bit naive. Here the same. Like, we see that if 8% sends a sex and 25% receives one, we will not change this by telling our kids that they are the best. I think I made my point. So how do we get to trust? First of all, the R of the receiver. We made a video together with youngsters, so with youngsters for youngsters, about when you receive a sext, the person is trusting you and you should not shame that trust. The video is without text, but in the end it just says this, like, if you are worth her trust, show it, something like this. So let's look at it. That's weird. Worth her trust, don't give it away. Okay, this video will not win a prize of originality, but it makes a point. It goes further than just saying towards the sender of a sex, don't do it. It goes further. It's like, even if it's sent, make sure you're worth the trust of somebody. But of course, we should still sensitize the sender of sex as well. And also there, we made a video with youngsters. That was this year. The video is mostly it's 100% in Dutch, but I made subtitles, so we can all follow them. Let me see how this works. Oh yeah, within this movie we introduce a grandma rule. This means, like, don't post anything on social media that you don't want to see in a frame at your grandma's. And you'll see how we did it. Let me see where the subtitles are. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah.
Oh Marieke, dat voelt dat Gert, hè. Kom maar binnen. En ga dan maar door. De deur is nog dicht doen staan. En ik heb een mooie foto van u gevonden.
Is het waar?
Online. Ah. Ja.
Computers, de
De max, sociale media, de max, Excel-tabellen. Ja, ook goed zeker. Maar als het gaat over experimenteren op seksueel vlak, let dan toch maar op met uw smartphone of uw webcam. Childfocus ziet hierover steeds meer dossiers verschijnen. In 2015 was zelfs 1 dossier op 4 gelinkt aan sexting. Ja, je weet wel, zo vuile foto's van uw eigen maakt met uw telefoon. Je moet gewoon weten dat als er iets op het internet geraakt, dat er weer vrij moeilijk afgaat. De persoon die de boel op het internet gesmeten heeft, ja, die krijgt nog het snelste weg. En anders kan je altijd de website in kwestie contacteren, of Childfocus natuurlijk. Dan help je graag uit de nood. Maar het best van alle jongens en meisjes is dat er gewoon geen foto's verspreid of online zet die er niet bij je grootmoeder op de schouwzet wil zien staan. Zie dat van hier.
Vind je het niet mooi? Maar je moet er niet schamen, ik heb ook zo'n foto, kijk.
Hey, er zitten we nog vragen hierover? Bel dan gerust naar het nummer 116 3x0, de hulplijn van Childfocus. Of bel naar mij. Ah nee, ik weet niet, wat heb met de nummer niet?
Yes. I hope you could all read the subtitles because it's pretty fast. 5 minutes? Oh, I'll do it in 2. Okay, let's end this. Do you want to know the truth? Well, I'll tell you the truth. Some youngsters sext, and first of all, it's not all of them. It's only 8%. But actually, there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, I'm not here to promote sexting towards kids, but stigmatizing them is definitely not the right solution. So if you don't want kids to be naive, we shouldn't be naive ourselves, because there will always be sexting youngsters. So teach kids about the risks, but also how to minimize them. So if they still think about sexting, then they know at least that Snapchat does not make sexting safe. And they will know not to show their face, and they will know to make sure the background doesn't give their identity away. But especially if they would receive a sext, they know that what they get is something personal, and that they should be proud to keep what they received for themselves. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is real trust. And if we can establish this kind of trust, then hopefully in the future I shouldn't be talking to you anymore about sexting that goes around. Thank you for your attention.